Yeah.
So just to kind of jump in right here. So verbal commits uh, just put out there that Tennessee hit the portal.
Okay.
We'll see if we'll try to get that confirmed, but that could be the next domino here to fall if that's fully confirmed here, which we'll try to get. But yeah, go ahead, Dylan. I just wanted to toss that in there.
No, yeah, I was just gonna say in terms of Purdue, because we were talking about kind of and it kind of dovetails with what you're talking about here, Alec, is that Purdue is the only team left in the tournament, I believe, that does not have a transfer on its roster. So it's interesting the way Purdue has kind of gone about building their roster with guys who are going to stick around for a while, and that doesn't seem like that's likely to change here over the next couple of years, because we have the seniors with Travion Williams, Sasha Stefanovic, Eric Hunter Jr. all talking like none of them are going to use their COVID year and they're all going to leave. And then if Jaden Ivey leaves too, that creates a ton of opportunities for a Brandon Newman, for a Trey Kaufman run. So none of those guys are going to transfer either. And it seems like Purdue is just one of these teams that is going to get guys to stick around. And that is something that Matt Painter has built in West Lafayette that seems to be built for the long haul in terms of contending on a year after year basis. And it's just kind of it's a unique, right now in college basketball, it's a unique program in terms of the amount of guys that have stuck around.
Yeah, and it is good to see that. But that is also a team that is built on a ton of Indiana recruits.
It is 4 5 starters are Indiana kids.
So you've got guys that are close to home that are not looking to leave, and there's no reason for them to leave, really. I mean, I still, when Goofy dude from Amsterdam left Purdue a year ago,
Matt Harms.
Guess what? What have you heard from Matt Harms since he left Purdue?
He played 1 year at BYU. They made the tournament. They lost in the first round. Yeah.
Boom. And never to be heard from again. And he could have been playing on a contender, a team, and probably would have gotten more attention that would have probably served him much better. I still don't know what he was thinking. But yeah.
Maybe he saw Zach Edey play in a scrimmage. It was like, I don't need to be here playing against that in practice.
And then Travion Williams behind him.
Yes, exactly. I don't know. That's the thing is Zach Edey, he wouldn't have I don't know if he would have leapfrogged Matt Harms as a freshman when Matt Harms was a fifth-year senior, would have been last season, but it would have been tough for one of those guys would have had to play over the other guy because Travion was going crazy last year. And I don't know if it would have been Harms. Zach Indiana was a better player.
Speaking of big man, Indiana has to find a big man, Alec, as we've talked about. Either way, they need someone that can be what Michael Durr was not. And that's whether Trace Jackson Davis is here or not. They still need that guy, and they don't have him, or are they going to go in a different direction, a smaller, more scoring direction?
Yeah, I think you're going to see both, right? That's why I think you're still going to see one more guy from Indiana leave, because I think now you're one under the scholarship limit, which is obviously a much better place to be in than 3 over when they started this week. So they have the option now to add, and that's what they're going to do. But I still think you're going to add 2 guys to this roster. I think you're going to need at least something else in the front court, like I said, and you'll probably going to add something on the wing and on the perimeter there, because those are the 2 spots that Indiana really needs to get better at. So one of those guys is Peyton Sparks, right? We haven't heard a lot of names that have really popped up, but we have confirmed that Ball State forward Peyton Sparks has been contacted by Indiana. There is some mutual interest there. That's something that if Indiana continues to push in that direction, that they'll be hard to beat with that one there. But at the same time, not sure how much he'll be able. He averaged basically 14 and 7 last year as a freshman at Ball State. Obviously, different level of competition. Still a guy that's growing, not a huge body right now. Terrific rebounder and terrific player in high school. An in-state kid, but they're going to need to go out and get a guy who can kind of move into that lineup and at least play, and solidify themselves as at least a rotational big. So whether you do have a Race Thompson or a Trace Jackson Davis come back, you need someone who can play kind of that 13 to 17 minutes off of the bench, and be consistent off of the bench. Not a guy who needs to average 10 and 10. But if you have one of those two guys back, at least someone who kind of puts up 6 and 4, 6 and 5, something like that you can get some really good minutes off of, because I do think you will see a more versatile, smaller, quicker lineup with Jordan Geronimo at the 4. And I don't think you lose a lot with Jordan Geronimo at the 4, right? His athleticism makes up for any lack of size that he may kind of go up against. And then as long as you have Logan Duncombe back in the fold, I think that's a solid kind of 4-man rotation where you'll see a lot of different swaps. But at the same time, I think the biggest emphasis is obviously getting Race or Trace back into the lineup for next year. Because if not, then that creates a whole different dynamic where you definitely need to go get, a big time scoring threat at the 4 or at the 5.
I think it's interesting, really, really quick, if I could. Like, we've spent the last 3 years with Trace, and before that, Juwan Morgan, really, kind of having IU have one of their main offensive set pieces be get the ball in the post and let a guy go to work. And there's a possibility, if neither Trace nor Race comes back next year, that Indiana is just a completely perimeter-oriented team in a way that we have not seen in a very, very long time. And I think that it's just going to be jarring after seeing that for so many years, being a kind of an inside-out team. Like the style of play next year, I don't know how much it's sunk into a lot of people yet, how much different Indiana's just whole style of play might be next season. It might be jarring for people when they first see it in November.
And I think that's much better though for Indiana, again, because I'm sure we've talked about this multiple times too, but the biggest deficiency that Indiana's had over the last 5-6 years has been that go-to perimeter player, right? A guy who you can kind of clear out the paint for and say, go get us a bucket when we need one. And you don't have that if you have two traditional bigs, or even, one guy who kind of takes up and clogs up a lot of that lane. But at the same time, a lot of this goes back to and Mike Woodson, again, knows it goes back to spreading the floor and getting multiple shooters on the floor. That's what he tried to do this past year. Didn't work out as well as he wanted. So that's why I still think you're gonna see another guy leave, if not 2 more. I always thought the number was 5. They're at 4 right now. So I think you're still going to see 1 more leave, because Indiana still needs a lot of help on the perimeter, and they need to go out and get someone who can kind of solidify that rotation there on the outside.
By the way, before we go, I know John wants to get us to a break, but I should point out that Rob Finney has announced that he is entering the transfer portal and will leave. So that is
just saw that.
Yep, I just sent the retweeted his tweet out, and I might as well go ahead and read. He says, "Hoosier Nation, I'd like to thank you all for the continued support through all the ups and downs of the past 4 years. Through it all, you have stuck with me and supported me and to continue my journey. After talking with my family, I've decided I will be entering my name in the transfer portal as a grad transfer for the 22-23 season. I'd like to thank all of his former teammates, coaches, and managers for developing and making him his time at Indiana enjoyable." So there you go.